Hi there, Year 11. Obviously, we're not together in lesson right now, but I thought I'd try my best to continue to teach the evaluation and testing stage of your non-examined assessment. I've also roped in a little bit of help here. I'm not sure how happy she's going to be about being part of a lesson, but we'll work with it. So the evaluation and testing section of your non-exam assessment is really quite heavy in terms of the amount of marks it's worth. So it's worth 20 marks out of the 100, so 20%. And amazingly, regardless of if we were in school or not, year after year, there's always a number of students that decide not to do any of these pages. I'm going to try and talk through how simple they can be. I've cut down just a couple of pages for us right now. I just really want you to show some evidence so I can work out what mark band I'd be looking at. So here's the mark scheme, just looking at the top couple really. So let's just see if I can highlight this. So extensive evidence of various iterations. Okay, so that's looking with your prototypes, etc. Have you tried different things? Has your designing shown different things? We're looking for third party feedback, which is just there. I'm just trying to get away. And the third party feedback we're looking for there would ideally be from the client, but I'm not looking for that too much at the moment. So evaluation evident throughout, in case that's on your design pages as well, and testing of all aspects of the final prototype, which we'll look at as well. So those are the sort of areas we're going to look at. I'm going to now look at the 2 pages that are going to be our focus. So self and client evaluation, focusing a little bit more on the self evaluation at the moment, a little bit easier for you. And in reality, there's a bunch of questions there on the side of the page. Hello. And what we want to do with those questions is just try and answer them as best we can. Obviously, a lot of you haven't quite finished your practical work. Oh, this one's going to fly away. So a lot of you haven't finished your practical work yet, which is fine. Obviously, it's not ideal, but what we want to do there is we will work on the idea that your practical work is finished, and I want you to try and imagine what it would be like if it was finished. Even if you have managed to get it done or not, there'll be little errors and little problems in your project, and there'll be bits that have gone really well. So the great thing here is you're just going to write about your project, how it's gone, what have been the good bits, what have been sort of the not so good bits, and then we can try and put that together into just a paragraph or two. Okay, try not to dwell on the negatives, try and focus a little bit on the positives, but also if you are going to talk about the things that haven't gone right, which is good, I want you to talk about how they've been improved, not just, oh, this bit's rubbish, I don't like that. I want you to say, oh, this join here didn't quite work, there's a bit of a gap, I filled it, but in reality, if I was doing it again, I'd improve it by adding a bit of material over the gap to cover it, or I would cut it a little bit neater so it goes together just that little bit better. And those are the sort of things I want to look at. So on the next slide, I've also added a set of sentence starters. So you might say, I really like this part of the project, as it is particularly smooth or round or well joined together, well finished. My favourite part of the product is, so I can think of some that maybe got a really cool leg on a coffee table, for example, or maybe it's got some really nice laser cut elements. You'll have different bits that are good or not so good on your projects. Okay, as you go through, there's some other ones, which bits you don't like and why, how they could be improved. One thing to try and consider is how could you make your product better for the environment, the user, or how do you make it better to be manufactured? So that's one of the sentence starters I've written there, and you can pick and choose different sentence starters and different areas to talk about. Obviously, try and answer the questions that are on the previous slide. It won't let me go back to the previous slide, that's annoying. And that's that side of it. So self-evaluation, if you can just write a paragraph or two about your product and what you think of the product. I want to know your feelings about what you've made or part made at this stage. Moving on. Modifications and industrial manufacture. I really like this page. It's one that I've always tried to get students to complete. Primarily, it's going to get you some marks for the evaluation and testing because you're evaluating and showing how you'd improve, but also it can get you some more marks in both the design and the development section. So that's another 40 marks in there that we can access some extra bonus points for, as it were, because we're going to show a bit of designing here. So obviously you don't have photos at this point, so I'm going to talk you through how to go about this, and it's how we do it most years anyway. But the idea with this page is you're going to talk about how that product could be improved. And you're going to do this through the medium of designing and drawing. So as a page, I've sort of set it up here. I would leave a gap in the middle or in the corner, it doesn't really matter. And just say photo of product here. We know what your products look like, so we'll just assume there's a photo there. Then I've sort of split this into sort of two sections. Section one, you sort of do half the page of designing, okay, doing some small sketches, I've just got to draw a circle around it, that show how you'd improve parts of your project. So if there was a drawing that had a bit of a gap in there, could you show a drawing of how that could be improved? So as I mentioned earlier, you might put a piece of, I don't know, acrylic over it to cover it up. That might be quite a bit bent, or you might require some screws in a different way. However you're going to make or improve your product, just little sort of diagrams to show different parts of how they could be improved. Doesn't show it too well because I think my face is now in the way of this bit. But the other half of the page, highlight that in, right, this bit down here, says draw some sketches of what your product would look like if you were to start making it again. So starting from scratch, if I say, look, I'm going to give you, I don't know, £1,000 and 100 hours, fill your boots, go and make an even better project. What would it look like if it's still the same product? So if you're making a lamp, it'd still be a lamp, but what would be the next iteration? So your product that you've made or part made at this stage, that's our prototype. What would be the next prototype and the next prototype? So how would it develop further? How would you design it further to be even better? And with all that, important to add notes, explain what you would change and why. Really important, just to add those little notes. What's changed? Why have you changed it? How has it improved it? And that's going to get you marks for evaluation, marks for testing, designing marks, development marks. In reality, it can access marks in 3 different sections, so it's definitely worth having a look at this page. Obviously, if you don't have your folders with you, which some of you don't, I know there's a few folders left in school, you can do this on an A4 sheet of paper because you might not have A3 paper. You could photograph it and upload it onto Show My Homework for me or the team to have a look at, and we can help. That'll help us inform our judgments on sort of some of our finer marks. So yeah, I think that's most of it. I think on the next slide I have just our keywords and terms, just to remind some people for spelling, for just making sure you're using the right terminology rather than just saying I would use some wood or plastic here, maybe explaining what wood in terms of pine, oak, mahogany, or what plastic, just to try and give you as much, I'm going to say, detail, the correct terminology, getting the language right, and that just helps show that you can communicate effectively. So that's everything from me and Ivy, who's disappeared off. I hope you guys are all okay, and I will endeavour to do a few more little videos like this to help you out. Anyway, take care and goodbye for now.